877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Stumbling down the road with Bridgette Lynn Dolgoff as she carries stones, digs holes, and wheels her shovels on her way. This road is the real path. It is never easy and never clear, but always entertaining. This journey has not been a seated event, as Bridgette walks, runs, stumbles, carries, digs, drags, laughs, fights, sings, prays, dances, kicks, screams, and oftentimes falls.
Well, we must be coming in sooner than later. We hope, since I am subbing. Yes, she did. She'll be doing it today. Bridgette is away. And if I'm over talking the forward, I apologize. But, oh well. We shall see how it goes. Can you hear me, Lenny? I just lost Lenny. I just lost Lenny. How did I lose Lenny? Oh, well, we're trying again, seeing what's going on. Oh, hey, speak to me if you can. Lenny? Okay, I can't hear him. I can hear me, but I can't hear him. Okay. Well, welcome. We're here at freedomslips.com, revolution.radio. It is Saturday. He dumped again. It is Saturday, the 13th of April, and spring has sprung. So please let us know that you support us by going to the homepage or come to chat and do us that favor of basically doing the donate thing. You know what I mean? So it's rather interesting. Here we go. Yeah, it's like all kinds of confusion today. I shouldn't even be into chat at the rate it's going. I don't know. I'm just trying to help out here. And okay, let's see. Oh, I don't need to keep hearing myself. There we go. Oh, I'm so used to B, and A is so different. Remember also that we have archives and BOOT, not BBOT. Yes, hello. And then I was listening to a 5G thing, and oh my gosh, if we really don't know. And then even hearing from Hawk the other day, he bought a ceiling fan, and it's got Wi-Fi stuff in it. Like, we're just being bombarded by all kinds of conditions and things that we really don't know, that they've been spending our hard-earned tax money, that's right, into harming us, doing us in, annihilating the facts that we really do belong on this planet. This is our home, but that's okay. We can have insects dying off at record rates, and there's just like they're the canary in the coal mine. They're trying to let us know what's going on. But hey, I got to see 2 butterflies this week. I haven't seen any since, but hey, that's okay too. To at least the degree that I give thanks for what I have. Yep. All kinds of conditions and things. So now, South Dakota has sued over new laws aimed at preventing another Standing Rock. Yes, John Bolenbog was very true on that. If you listen to one of Bridgette's previous shows, he was on there. He's been on my show. My name is Mona Radler, in case nobody knows. I'm the Feral Hippy on Studio B, Monday through Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so, since Bridgette's out changing the world, I was happy enough to step in and help her out, or sit in. South Dakota sued over new laws aimed at preventing another Standing Rock. What? Who the F? Oh, please. Civil liberties organizations and activists are pushing back against new laws which criminalize protests and free speech related to pipeline projects. We're losing our voices, people. This is not correct. This is not right. Many decades and family members have given their lives for us to have a free voice. So, hey, and that's what this station stands for. So don't forget, we do need donations. In late March, a coalition of Native activists, the American Civil Liberties Union, and the ACLU of South Dakota filed suit against the state of South Dakota in an effort to repeal recently passed state laws aimed at curbing rioters during the upcoming construction of the Trans-Canada Keystone XL pipeline. South Dakota Senate Bill 189 and 5B 190 have created controversy due to the potential to prevent peaceful and legal protest of environmental projects. Senate Bill 189, also known as the Riot Boosting Act, grants the state of authority to sue any individual or organization for what they call riot boosting, or encouraging and or in participating in acts of force or violence. When it was them who did it to the North Dakota. The natives don't try to fight. SB 190 sets up a funding to pay for state, county, and local police to combat those potential pipeline protesters. That's right, combat them. They don't have a free voice. They don't have a will to try to stop something that's damaging and environmentally unsafe. Oh, heck no, don't you say anything. Shh, it's a secret. This means that any individual who's attending a protest or a rally against the Keystone Pipeline or other future pipelines could become subject to civil or criminal penalties, whether they engage in violence or not. The plaintiff in the suit argues that the language of the bill is vague and does not clearly define what type of conduct of speech is considered rioting, boosting, or encouraging a riot. Well, I'll tell you one thing, having it live on YouTube, that would be one of them, or other things of those natures. They're going to take all your civil liberties away. That's all there is to it. I don't know why anybody even believes that we have any civil liberties left.
What's a civil?
Hi, honey.
Yeah, it took a while, considering that I must have joined the conversation about 8 times.
Oh, goodness.
No idea what Skype is up to, but Skype is up to something else.
Actually, it is Sun Square Pluto.
Ah.
So there is a lot of energies of denying but allowing. It's just going to be one of them days, okay?
We knew that earlier this morning, didn't we?
And that's okay. I mean, I have no issues with it because I got both sides to whatever story. And so it's fine by me.
Nope. I am all ready for today. I have no idea what we're going to talk about, but we are going to talk for a couple hours, right?
Exactly. Well, I just happened to get onto the Keystone Pipeline. Of course, if you didn't hear it, because, I was rambling, the civil liberties. I don't know. You tell me what you believe a civil liberty is.
I think that we're in a game that is not a game that any of us play anymore, and that we need to switch games. I think that the game of government enforcing everything upon us is done, but I don't know that we could do it better for ourselves with no government or with a dictatorship type government. But the government that we have now is a corporatocracy, and the corporatocracy has rewritten the rules so that the court defines persons as corporations, and we can't compete from human scale, nor should we try to. Human scale is something separate, and if we confine our actions to human scale and work without asking the government's permission, there's some things that would have to shift around, but I think people could do that. First thing that would have to shift around is that people have to own the land they live on, and that the whole idea that the banks have bought up all the land by making money that we all use, that whole thing has to go away. And how it goes away isn't going to be legal, because the legal system doesn't deal on human scale. But we need to substitute something from human scale that we can do instead of doing that, so that our attention is away from it and it can wither away on the vine.
Okay, now what does that have to do with civil liberties? Because for one thing, on this pipeline, it's the Native Americans who the government gave them the land after they stole their land, and is saying, we have every right to put this Keystone Pipeline. You have no civil liberty. You're just slaves to the system.
Everybody's a slave to the system, and nobody has.
But there are others more in more or less confinement or concentration, or however you want to put it, like the Native Americans. Those people did not do anything illegal or criminal, to my mind, for the first pipeline. Now, this is the second pipeline. And if you would have heard John Ball's shows with Bridgette and I, they're destroying every ounce of living earth through these pipelines.
In order to change the game, we can't do it by their rules, can we?
Well, no, I don't believe I would want to play by their rules. But to say that you don't have your amended rights to be able to have free speech, or to be able to stand there on the corner because you feel like you might want to stand there on the corner with a sign saying, think. Not you think, the word think on the sign. You know, like put a little thought in their mind to think about what's going on, no matter if it's just them talking on the phone while they're driving.
The thing is that people don't have any say in what's going on anymore. They've given it up to some nebulous force that tells them how to live their lives, and they go from cubicle to cubicle to box frame house with a quick stop at McDonald's in between so that they can watch television and catch what's happening on Game of Thrones. I mean, like, that's important.
In their small mind, yes. And I didn't mean to insult anybody out there, but I do Netflix, so hey. I'm part of that system to a degree because that's where I feel I want to go. But I'm not holding somebody back from doing a change in their way that they want to feel it. And that's what they're doing. They're not giving and allowing the voice of anything. I mean, it's almost as bad as the 5G where you got to have these scientists come out and tell you that the new technology is dangerous and is going worldwide, we're all in trouble.
Who would we even address to help us take care of those difficulties? I mean, the government obviously is not running things. The corporations, I don't think, are running things. I think there's very few people who hold title to the corporations. So in order to change things, who would you even appeal to? What's the order of hierarchy of the current world?
I think if you're talking in this 3D realm, it doesn't mean much of anything. But if I'm thinking that every vibration has a cause and effect and an action and a reaction, that I should have the right to voice my voice. And I will allow anybody else to voice their voice, too. Doesn't mean I have to have them on again for another conversation because I don't like combativeness, but, you know.
Yeah, it's one of those things where everybody has an idea of how everybody else ought to act, and nobody's controlling themselves.
Well, that's kind of scary. I do the best to control myself and to know what I am doing, so there is no complications. Am I just too aware? I like being aware. It's really cool, actually, and to be aware, because so much of it is just, you're right, to get where they are now strategically placing in columns the names that the people who are speaking up, you know, we're targets now.
Like we haven't been in the past?
Right. True that, brother. Oh, yeah. Jeez. But I took a hiatus for a long time until I came back on the radio, or got on the radio. So, 5 years.
Things going on the micro scale.
Right.
On the macro scale, there's so many distractions and so many things that have to be, well, I don't know. There's levels that you can address issues, but you can't fix a problem at the level that you created it. You need to have more depth of understanding in what you've done to fix it. And right now we've got some problems that I don't see being fixed. I see them being exasperated. And the idea, for instance, of pipelines. There's pipelines going up all over this country, and they're using eminent domain to take people's land to do it. Mm-hmm. And so I don't, if they could run pipelines and not leak oil out of their pipelines, that would be a whole nother thing entirely about allowing them. But right now, they can't keep the oil in the damn pipeline, and we need to be against industrial pollution, not finding new ways to break pollution to new ground.
Exactly. Because the technology that's supposed to make it better isn't doing it. Do you remember way back in, oh my gosh, it had to have been the 80s, where because of all the tankers, which we never hear of any tanker accident anymore, you know, shipping oil tankers, that they would create a double hull. So it wouldn't be the way of simple puncture leak kind of thing. Well, I'm sure that's all gone down the hill with BP and its spill. Its explosion. It's, oh my gosh.
So the game is that they haven't made any real infrastructure improvements now since the 1970s. So if they haven't been maintaining things, I mean, where's our steel industry? Where the industries that you see, you don't really see. They're there, but they're not there. But the whole scheme of what's going on is way different from what they taught us in school.
Right.
And who knows what's going on anymore. And I have this big blue feature in the middle of my computer screen saying Dell Update. and there's no check off box on it, and it's right in the middle of the screen, so I can't do anything.
Oh, are you on the computer or you're nope?
I'm talking to you on the tablet, but I fired up the computer so that I have access to it to look some stuff up while we're talking.
Oh, so it won't go anywhere. It just won't let you look anything up.
It's got a big blue thing that says Dell Update in the middle of the screen, and I have access to things, but I have to look through this big blue block that can't check off the screen.
Interesting.
Thing is running whenever you move to the blue block. So I have no idea, but somebody's hijacked the computer.
Somewhere, something. Just like the 5G or the other towers that are going up. Nobody recognizes to know that we're really not going to get a faster kind of conglomerates. I mean, is it going to let us into the other technology that we're not allowed to know is out there? So how is your garden going? Let's get off that for a minute. I'm looking at the clock knowing that we don't have that half-hour break, but that's okay. So
I don't really have a very good garden growing. I put out some onions, and the geese found the onions and ate the tops off them. And so I'm not going to try and grow a garden. I'll just let the herbs grow in the field as they grow. And they've started the plants for the hemp grow.
Cool.
In the greenhouse, but we can't really put them in the ground until mid-May because the potential for frost here in Oregon, especially this winter, is still pretty good.
So what are you covering the metal frame with? Just visqueen?
Yeah.
So that's cool. And are they on benches or on the ground, the pots?
They are on benches, but to tell you the truth, I haven't walked out there to look.
Oh.
It's open, so I can see that there's benches there, so I'm assuming that the pots are on the benches.
Mm-hmm.
But all the dynamics have taken place in the last couple days, and I'm not involved in the operation, so I don't spend a lot of time taking up the time of the people who are working.
Right. Oh, I don't blame you there, but it sure is going to be an interesting set of occurrence, because I would rather think, besides hemp being one of the best soil cleansers, and then there's all kinds of other uses for the hemp, that we have as an individual the right to go for that kind of purchase. I mean, you can make hemp fuel. Ford made a hemp car, and it ran off hemp. I mean, there's so many viable uses that are in our benefit that even if we are going out, let's try not to go out with so much damage, like you said, the industrial pollution. Go ahead.
We're at the point where the game is over. Dire Straits called it industrial disease, and that's really what it is. But you can't sustain the past economy anymore. It just doesn't work. And if we can't have self-determination on local level, why? I mean, it's not a system that's workable anymore.
No.
It's too much land mass in the country with too many diverse opinions on too many different things that there's very few people making huge decisions in the lives of people who they don't even know. And that's not representation. And so we need a representation that has maybe two levels between Congress and the people, with people working those levels to make sure that people are heard in the chambers of the system, whatever the system is. But if you don't have your own call on what you're doing to determine your life, and you can give it to someone else if that's your call, but right now the system is locked, closed, and any way you go to subvert it, you can, but you can't do what you need to do within it, that you have to subvert it in order to get anywhere. And so we need to scratch the system. The people in charge of it don't follow the rules. How can they expect anyone else to?
Exactly. I cannot disagree or disalarm that because it's so true.
So
oh
the
my
question
gosh.
is, small groups, how do we get autonomous small groups going?
Um,
What sort of relief might we need from current existing laws, and what sort of responsibilities does that small group have, and to whom? If we're going to work living Earth, shouldn't the Earth have rights?
Yes, the Earth has rights, very much so, foremost before everything else, and all her inhabitants. But look what happened with the Tea Party. They tried to adulterate and change the political setup and system to supposedly get the smaller people's voices back, and it didn't happen to keep going because the power plays, and see, it's all money. You know that everything is getting highfalutinly paid for, and that's all anybody thinks about. Do you ever see the movie They Live?
No.
You haven't seen They Live?
I don't watch horror movies. I'm not.
Oh, this is not a horror movie as of that nature. I saw this movie in California in 2010, and it was an older movie then. And here I'm flying out, and earthquakes are happening, and the concrete cracked, and I'm like, oh, geez. So I end up coming back to the East Coast. But there was a movie on, and it was called They Live. And you really want to see it, Lenny, because I don't blame you. I'm not into horror movies either. But then every now and then, because I love Independence Day, and that could be a real horror movie. And War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise. But anyway, those could be horror movies. I get what you're saying. But this is a reality check where everything is subliminally power playing, controlling us and directing us, and it's all the ones who have the money. And that they're watching us. They're watching us. They're watching us.
Of course they're watching us. And we're watching them watching us, watching them watching us.
Only because you and I know that. The other people don't.
We absolutely know that spraying chemtrails does absolutely no good to anybody. And yet at every power, no matter how much information that we have that's valid, they refuse to hear it. How is that a system we can work within?
Because they have the righteousness to think theirs is the only way.
So what did the president say about 5G yesterday that has everybody's he's all bunched?
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I don't know that. What?
Yeah, apparently the president had a chat with people, and now everybody who's against 5G is having their panties all bunched. So he must have said something.
Well, did he say something, or did another step?
I don't know the president.
I mean, but see,
scale that it's not worth my time to be aware of what he says.
He's just the mouthpiece. He's just the puppet at the top of so many strings. I'm amazed if he knows what's going on. They were making fun of him because he was saying org or instead of organize. I don't know what he was, but they're making fun of him, and I don't know.
That's the habit.
He doesn't have the power of the right to say what the corporations are going to do or not because they're the ones who own the government.
But somebody owns corporations and the game's over. It's time to change the game the way it's played. What sort of things do we need to do from human scale that would change the playing field?
Stop pollution.
Right.
That would be the first step. By making sure these companies and corporations can...
No, you can't affect corporations from human scale. They don't know that you even exist at corporate scale. There's no such thing as human. So if human wants to work at human scale to stop the pollution, what route is there in the current system or even outside the current system? What can you do to stop it other than not pollute yourself?
Well, that's it. By not buying their products. and knowing the difference between what they're introducing as something healthy when it's more or less so destructive to the organic body and system of the planet. Oh, but you can go for it. Why not, right? Like aspartame and all the rest of these other things of those natures. People need to stand up and cut themselves out of the system. What happened?
I not only not use their products, I don't use their money either, but it's a one-size-fits-all system, and you have to do without things to not use their money. And it's difficult, not impossible, but in the way the system works, the rewards are for behaving badly. And so right now you've got most of the population behaving badly in order to keep it going because they're afraid of what might come next. But as long as they keep doing that, we're always going to be under this system. So we need to start looking at questions that we don't usually ask. And the first one is, if you know that something has to change and the system doesn't allow it to change, what can you do to change it outside the system?
Well, I think the more the consciousness arrives at setting an example of not being in that condition would help. But then how does that get out there so others would see it? Depends on the stipulations and the use of your inner heart and mind to make all kinds of things change.
It also depends on where you get your information from and how valid that information is. And right now, we're working from information base that's not valid.
Well, I don't see any of it as valid. I see it as information. Unless I'm there seeing it, and I know from, I'll say conversation, because I can read the facts behind what's in your heart through your voice. So otherwise I wouldn't talk to you if you had some kind of notion to play it different. Does that make sense? Because you're being your authentic self, Lenny. You're not trying to put on literally some character like the politicians to lie, cheat, steal, and make promises that don't get kept.
And in fact, I have experienced that system trying to go into it in order to change it. And the problem with the system really is that it rewards bad behavior. And so the further down the system you get, the more your behavior has to go against your better judgment.
Okay, let's define bad behavior for a second, because, see, there's so many litigations of the conscious level of what is good and bad. Did you hear what I said? Do you know what I meant?
Yeah, to me, bad behavior is when you compromise your ethics or your morals to do something that you know you shouldn't be doing.
Okay. Like these poor people who are putting up the LED lights getting radiated as they're working, and then they're not allowed to take a radiation meter with them, and they're all having health complications from this, but they got to have that paycheck. Yeah, they need to cut that off. Otherwise, they're going to die. I see what you're saying. It's so sad.
But the thing is that everybody is so dependent on that paycheck. And now, what's the story we got at the end of the last week to make everybody fear everything even more?
What's that?
Julian Assange. And they put him in prison. Oh, my gosh. Now, what's going on that's not Julian Assange related that they're trying to hide from us because everybody's focus is on Julian Assange?
That's a good question. But you've heard of Crow House, right? Max Ingham.
Max Ingham?
Isn't that his name? I mean, I've had him on my show. I think that's how you say his name.
I'm not sure I know.
Yeah, he's a Australian fella who does the Crow's Nest. Oh, jeez. And he's really good, and he brings it out. But because of the New Zealand situation, Yeah, Max Ingham. IGAN. I will send you one of the videos. Huh?
Egan.
Okay, Max Ingham. Okay, whatever. Ogan.
I have heard of this person. I haven't really spent the time to watch it, so that you can send it over to me.
I'm doing that right now.
One of the things that I think is involved in group theory coming together.
Can I finish what I was saying, though, just in case?
Sure.
It'll be quick. That because of the New Zealand church thing, some kind of thing happened. It was a supposedly false flag, but it wasn't a false flag. Yeah, the Crow House. Thank you, Chicago Brew. They actually took his YouTube down. Now, he's pretty, I'll say controversial just to see that he brings the truth to the fact of the light of he's good at what he investigates. He just doesn't talk off the top of his head, okay? He is literally looking for the facts for himself and sharing his outcome. He's good. I like Max. So, yes, I will definitely share this with you. And when you're getting in trouble just for your opinion, you know, they've got him set. They probably have a travel thing on him and everything else like that. I like Max. So I will send this to you. But anyway, so yeah.
Do you know who Vinny Eastwood is?
Oh, I've had him on my show too. He used to be a part of the station. Yeah, he's in some kind of situation.
He's in New Zealand.
Right, where the situation happened. Right. He's got.
Yeah, he was reporting firsthand on it, and YouTube cut off his channel.
Oh.
Vinny was right there on the scene, and lately he's been going back into Christchurch. He doesn't live there, but it's close enough, and interviewing people who were there to find out what went on. And yeah, people died, but it's a false flag because the story they released is false, not because nothing happened.
Right, that's what Max says. Because he's taken it, and literally, he's a great computer guy. You know, it's like what they did with Finnery. And when they killed the guy who's just trying to save the land of these, the Bundys, and just, oh my gosh, he was shot in cold blood on the side of a thing from a group that wasn't even out there. And they should not have been shot. And then they tried to kill all the people in the vehicle. And the Bundys were in prison for how long? For no good apparent reason, but by some kind of system that says, no matter what it says here on paper, you were right. They don't have to abide by any rules. So, yeah, we've been full of fear around here. Farms going out of business, getting sold. Oh, here, take it. I don't care. Like, there's no sovereignty for the planet anymore. We just have no respect to care to stand up to honor this earth. And that's disgusting. Ugh. Anyway.
And so, in order to change how things work, we kind of need to base a legal system on the planet having rights of the planet that supersede the rights of the humans on the planet, and then figure out a way to make sure everything from the individual water molecules all the way up to the planet itself is represented fairly as part of the deal. And there's a system for doing that that's not economic based because nature doesn't use economics.
Right.
But we're too busy doing science and telling nature how it ought to work and changing things around to make genetically modified organisms instead of looking at the dynamics of how nature does it and doing it like nature does it, because nature does it for a hell of a lot longer and a lot more efficiently than humans do it.
Well, rapists, pillagers, and murderers don't care. And that's exactly what they've been doing. I mean, I'm seeing physical changes on me that if I was just growing old, these physical changes would not be happening. Okay? And I know it's through all kinds of pressures, means, inoculations, the whole 9 yards, that everybody is physically reacting with some kind of cause and effect. And that's just not right either. Look what they're doing to our future. I mean, seriously, if I was young at this time and knew what I know, I could understand why I'd want to leave this planet too, but I know better because I have too much at stake. I was one of the first bubbles on this planet. This planet means a lot to me. And that's why I get just, oh gosh. But I know how to handle the energy so I don't feed into their system to be able to get the energy from me. So if people don't like that I can giggle and laugh and feel good no matter that we're burning in hell, then hey, tough bananas. That's all there is to it.
But we're not burning in hell, and we're very fortunate that things have changed and that we can get through this without near as much real grief as it used to cause people. But the thing is, people are going to have to realize that they were all responsible for themselves, and that you can't say that, oh, I'm sick because the doctor didn't tell me about how to take care of myself, or school didn't tell me what I should eat nutritiously, or anything. Everything's externalized. Nobody takes responsibility. But when you take responsibility, the system beats you up for taking that responsibility and wants you to be a ward of the system. So most people don't take responsibility, not because they know it's the right thing to do and they don't want to do it, but because they know they're going to get beaten up if they take responsibility and things go wrong, and there's too many things that are not under their control that can go wrong. And the people who have responsibility for doing things don't have the knowledge to do them anymore because they got to their positions through a system that rewarded playing below the belt dirty rather than being good at what you do.
Right.
So we really need to define what we think is meritorious and reward ourselves for doing good.
I know, right? Don't you like smiles better than frowns anyway?
Yeah, but the system as it now operates punishes you for doing good, rewards you for being more and more evil, and look what we've got. We've got Nexidian cults. And I don't even
what
know
kind of cults? You were scraping something. I didn't get to hear you clearly. What did you say?
Nexium cults.
Do it one more time.
Nexium.
Thank you. Nexium. Okay.
Yeah, those people who are running around selling each other for profit so that they can make more money on stage.
But there'll be nothing more available to flipping. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Wait a minute. Why would you kill the thing that gives you milk? Oh, pardon me. Moo. But you know what I mean.
It's one of those things where the stress of fame and fortune in today's world has driven many, many people insane. And we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg in how corrupt it has gotten to be able to be seen on stage by other people in life. And when you look at the things that are presented to us that really matter and really catch us in the news, the Nexidium cult on the one hand and the college basketball scandals on the other hand tell me that basically nothing is as it seems, and there's no way of playing fair when the system rewards the cheaters, and if you play fair, you can't beat the people cheating. And they get extra rewards on top of it. So why wouldn't everybody cheat? And I don't think people are bad for cheating, but you go to a new video game and the people who actually sit down and work the video game and get good at it and beat the game are very admirable. But most people go to the internet and look up the cheat codes and figure out how to beat the game and then go through and beat the game and think they did good. It's like, what sort of world are we living in?
Okay, did you mean the college into
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I meant the people buying their kids' way into college as being members of the crew team when they couldn't row a boat to save their life.
Right. Yes, Daddy built the school of life.
I just lost you. Are you still there?
I hope I'm still here.
Okay, now I hear you. For some reason, while you were saying what you were saying, you just faded to nothing.
Oh, okay. Huh. Any big machines go flying over your place?
No, I think it has something to do with Pluto being in Uranus or something.
No, Pluto's not near Uranus right now. In fact, it would be nice if it would, but no, we got some time yet, like 5 years till that happens. Well, probably longer than that. Uranus and Pluto aren't always in the same sign, but they were in my birth generation. So, all the planets mean something, and that is what's happening too, is that the laws are being exposed. And I really do think that if we get a surplus of consciousness together, doesn't even mean we have to agree, but we can agree to disagree and let it be what it is, whatever.
Yeah.
And go from there. But I know exactly what you're talking about. That everybody has to have an escape. You know,
Yeah.
I don't smoke my marijuana to escape. There are moments, but it's not really that. It's just I like it. And I smoke it when I feel I want to have a smoke. And I don't wake up and bake myself. I don't want to be not coherent enough to be a part of the now, no matter what that now is.
It strikes me that we all have this biological system within our bodies called the endocannabinoid system. By smoking marijuana, you feed the endocannabinoid system, which is a calmative. And it makes it so that instead of having sharp peaks on your frequencies, they're dampened into each other. And so I think that once you get over the initial high of being a smoker of marijuana, what happens is that marijuana actually lowers your energy levels so your excited state isn't so excited, and it dampens your energy so that it's more of a smooth and mellow flow, and that a lot of people who are out there screaming really need to sit down, get stoned, and chill out.
Well, at least to get themselves enough together to have the strength to do what they feel like they must be doing. I mean, that's just my opinion, of course, but.
So
yes, everybody must get stoned. Oh.
I like that song. I have before.
On something that's meant for our bodies. Okay, we need opioids, but then why can't we just do it naturally? Why do we have to process and rape it? I mean, that's like cocaine. Coca is a living plant for that area of the world. It is such a healthful benefit. And some a-hole has to come in and start throwing jet fuel and burning it and doing all that. Oh, I saw how they make cocaine. Oh my gosh. Like, and it's all derogatory. Weed is weed, just like herbs are weeds, and it should be used as a medicine and a culinary delight.
Yeah, and cooking with herb is pretty good too. But you gotta remember who you're cooking for, and not cook with herb and things that.
Do. There's always a sign, forewarning. But they should know me by now.
Yeah.
Seriously, hey, because I have had this consideration of harm towards others from our environmental structures since I probably was in elementary school. I used to get in trouble for asking questions all the time, going, but this doesn't make sense to me. They literally had me going to psychologists or whoever you want to call them, to flippin' try to change my mind then. And I'm like, well, I'll just go along with the flow here, see what happens. And then when my children were just not even 5 years old, and the questions that they were coming to me with, I couldn't lie to them. And everything that I thought that was true was a lie. And I'm like going, so my inner dialogue, it was not just a tantrum or a beat up party or anything else like that, but I physically had to be rough with myself, not anybody else. Because I don't like, I'm not a harm to anything. And so it broke that veil. It literally is that materialized of a system around us that until we can break our auritic shell from the concrete of the 3D shell, we'll always be stuck. Did that make sense?
Yeah, the question is, you can get there and divorce yourself from that 3D shell, okay, but you can't stay out there, and you always have to come back to the place where it is once again that 3D shell. And so it's like, wait a minute. I mean, no matter how enlightened you are, unless you figured out how to be a breatharian, you need to eat food. And when all the food has to be paid for, you must become part of the economy in order to pay for your food. And I noticed how much of a slippery slope it can be if you don't do anything in the system, and then somebody convinces you to dip a toe in one way.
Right.
And all of a sudden you find you're back in the system again. And it's like, well, how the hell did I get here? It was because you made decisions, and that lightened the load for making future decisions.
Well, true, but I'm okay with it. I'm not looking at it in any way but what the outcome's going to be. And if I can sustain even in the slightest manner by utilizing something that they want to provide, then but I don't do food stamps. I don't do all the rest of that. Because people want me to go on disability. I'm like, I don't want any part of the disability. Now, I earn my widow's benefits, okay? So I'm covered just slightly. I don't have my own of anything much. So, and I'm not real free to share with those who have no consideration of other people or their things. So, it's not easy, but it is easy. Because it's up to my choice. I'm not giving myself away to anything ever again. That's all there is to it. And that's what we each have to stand up for, is not to give ourselves away to stuff that is that harmful to us. More harmful than ourselves. But it's ourselves that is allowing it,
But, people are sneaky, and they will try all sorts of things to get you into their game.
Yeah, well, I'm better than that. Lived there, been there, done that. Excuse me. Oh, yeah. I'll get into a match just once or twice because some people think that they're going to, I'd rather hang up a phone call or turn off something else if I had to get into that kind of conundrum, because it's a waste of energy and I need all the energy I can get from myself. You know what I mean? Set up no flipping confrontations. Nope.
It seems to me it would be nice for everybody to be able to do it the way we do it, but that wouldn't be everybody's choice. But the fact that we get persecuted for our way because it's our choice and not somebody else's choice is where the frustration really sets in.
But I don't care what they think or feel or be like. I mean, literally. And somebody will make me and say that's insensitive because, okay, there's a man in the house here, and he's a really nice guy, and just found out that his grandson on the 7th OD got and actually stayed in the coma this time. Now, am I supposed to give energy and have sympathy towards somebody else's behavior and the way that they set up their own existence? No, it ain't going to happen. And so somebody's pissed off at me because I can't be sympathetic to somebody else's karma and cause and effect. Okay, do you know what I mean? So It's like, I don't really give a flying leap. Okay, now if it's happening right in front of me, I will take care of the best situation that I can to help process it. But I'm not going to be sucked into somebody's drama. And I'm not going to create drama, and I'm just not going to go there. What the heck for? I got better things to do, even if it is just watching Netflix and burning a bowl. F them.
Yeah. And I think we can both burn a bowl because I think we're at the mark where the promos are going to take over.
Yeah, I'm listening right now, so it hasn't started yet, and it's gonna, but it's like a second or two later because it's Studio A, not Studio B.
Yeah, I can't hear any of the promos when I'm on Skype, so...
Well, Skype decided to play that way, or there's other rules and things to process to have it happen. So, hey, fly by the seat of your pants like we're going to do right now. Be right back.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Hello, all you good-looking people out there in Revolution Radio. This is Mario. I invite you to join me Thursdays at 6 o'clock for This, That, and the Other. It's a show about you, it's a show about me, but ultimately it's a show where we try to have a little bit of fun. We discuss important topics, and we do our best to be apolitical. So I invite you, put on your favorite pair of comfy sweats, your smoking jacket, and grab a beverage of your choice, and join me Thursday evenings at 6 o'clock for This, That, and the Other on Revolution Radio.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
From the astral realms to the physical plane, the halls of power to the walls of home, the multiverse to the innerverse, all will be haunted by the ghost in the machine. I am Steve Zerloff, the ghost in the machine. Mondays, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Studio B. Exclusively here on Revolution.Radio.
It happens more often than we can imagine. In my case, I was sitting at home, and out of nowhere, I just started feeling uncomfortable. Then it got worse, and I started perspiring. I tried to ignore it, but I waited too long. The chest pain came as we were driving to the hospital emergency. I felt my life clock begin to tick. I barely survived. There was lots of damage done to my heart. What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more called Extendivite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy. If you're not using Extendivite as a preventative supplement, maybe it's time to start. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Alrighty then, I do believe we're back. I want to welcome everybody to Carrying Stones and Digging Holes with Bridgette away for the day. She will return next week. And that we are listener supported. I think we're like $88 from today's goal. Yes, we have like 1,222 in there. And goal today would be 1. Hey, 1222 is really decent. Love y'all for donating here to this station because we need to hope that we're getting through to some people that they have to realize that it's time to stand up on your rights. Your right to be human and alive and an individual, harm to none. And we can make a whole big change of this world, and especially not harming to yourself. I mean, gosh. But that's what we've been programmed to do, Lenny. By all the corporations and the corporate BS, we buy our own demise. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's time that we were back on human scale, each dealing with ourselves. But I think that the idea of pushing everybody into groups in order to, so that your group has power, is one of those things that we need to rethink about, because none of the groups these days allow individuals alone. You have to either be a member of the group or you're against the group, and there's no middle ground anymore. And I'm tired of not participating and being considered an enemy by both camps because I just want to bow out of this.
Live and let live, right?
Yeah. But, you know, everybody thinks that they know better, and we're not allowed to try different things because basically the corporations want to protect their profits. And they've got this economy where they can make schlock products and sell them over and over and over again. I mean, really, when you think about it, how much electricity does any person at the electric company actually produce in order for the electric company to charge as much from everybody for the production of electricity? Why isn't electricity owned by all humanity and provided freely? Because it's such a basic need.
Right. For the structure that we've created or once or have been thrust into, agree. But why can't it be harmonic either when everything is so detrimental?
Well, we need a reset of things.
Yeah.
And I think what we're seeing is we're getting some sort of reset, but I don't think we've got very good information on what's actually going on. So what do you suppose is going on? What are they hiding from us that they're not saying in order to keep us in the same position as we seem to have been for, 35, 40 years now?
Well, they're taking away all our constitutional rights. That's what I think. Because if people can't voice their opinion and have a debate, then there is no real communications. Because debate can be a healthy thing. It's not, I mean, look at the politicians are out drinking after their debates, together. They're playing a game, but then it's got to be facts backing it up, not just lost words or empty words, because that's how it's all been. All this has been empty words, not yours and my conversations, but you know what I mean. So much is just empty words.
Everything that we're educated with is much empty words. And when you go through experience and you see how it jives with that, you get an understanding of how things work. But the basic premises that we're acting off of haven't been validated. And so I don't any longer believe it works anything close to the way that the scientists tell us it works.
Right.
And so I'd like to question how these people know that we are moving on a ball in space, translating at 77,000 miles an hour and spinning all the while circulating in a tail behind a moving sun that's jetting across the cosmos, and all the same while the stars don't change places and make differences in the constellations we look at. None of that makes sense together.
I think it would depend on the value of the size of the whole projection. Because if the sun is spiraling through space, because there is a spiral, the Earth gets the sun in different locations, almost 360 degrees every year. So, and then depending on the tilt of the Earth, I mean, I see a natural segment of progression, at least, here.
I don't think that anything is close to the reality they've explained it, and that we live in a holographic universe that's projected on different size scales, and those size scales are frequency denominated. And so the reason why time can be used as it is because every different world is at a different frequency, and we're on multiple worlds at the same time that overlap such that we can't tell the difference. But if you tune yourself to one of the higher frequencies, there are changes in the world that have happened that aren't the same as the changes that happened in the lower frequency worlds. And we've got a whole bunch of people who are being sorted by their energy frequency into different worlds with different time constants, because the one thing you can't ever do is run into yourself.
Well, I think I have.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you get to thinking about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and they did run into themselves, and it was totally workable. So the idea that if you ran into yourself and you touched, you'd have positive and negative electrons annihilating each other and you just disappear is one of those phantoms of the opera that they tell us to keep us from time traveling.
They disappeared. The other guy disappeared. I didn't. That's how I can recognize that it happened.
Yeah. There's too many inexplicable things that have happened to me that I know it doesn't work the way they explain it.
Right.
But how it does work, I'm willing to listen, and I can tell you, that doesn't work like that. But to propose how it does work, I don't have a handle on it, because so much of the information that I would need was taught to me wrong. But what if the water of your body was what caused the intelligence and your brain actually had nothing to do with it?
I don't doubt that my water and my DNA is exactly just that. Turn-ons.
DNA is a light emitter, and
right?
How it flashes light at different frequencies would be an interesting thing to know, but the model that they give us for how DNA works is another model that I really can't buy into. It doesn't work that way.
I see so many things as always in movement that There's got to be, even though we don't think about it, there is a start and an end. It's like the figure 8 for the infinity symbol. It's a lot of different other symbolisms that manifest, at least in my reality, that life is magic. It's physics. It's geometry. It's time. And etheric, and not just 3D, because there's many dimensional realms. So, yeah, and veiled, and then dimensioned, and then that's all I could think of right now. There's so many points to the one issue. You're right.
I think that human is of variable size throughout the universe, and that humans exist on each and every scale we can imagine, but that the scales are fractal to each other, and that figure 8 you mentioned has a twist, so you go around it once and the whole way around, and then you go through the twist, and if you went around the inside of the figure 8 the first time, now you're going around the outside the second time. So you have a different perspective on the same thing, and the two ones, the first time around and the second time around, make the sum of the whole.
Okay, so, but it's all at a different speed and conjuncture.
Yeah, and the smaller worlds are, the more duplicate worlds there are at that level of dimension. So if we're on a very, very small world, there can be millions of these small worlds, and we could be awake on a lot of them and spend a day. It makes some difference. You go to sleep, you wake up, you're on a whole different world, and you're spending your next day picking up from the you that was there yesterday and handing it off to the you that will be there tomorrow. But each of those yous is at a different frequency.
Sounds like a chakra tune-up to me. Yeah, get our frequencies on, you know.
Yeah, but if you're at low enough frequency where you're grounded and vibrating well, I don't think you necessarily need to age.
Right. Oh, I wouldn't disagree with you there. No. Because it's all been how we've been programmed. I mean, I know how I feel within, but it's maturity from knowing what I knew all those other years.
Even though what you knew during those other years turned out to not be true.
I am as true as I am right now and authentic, so...
Yeah, no, that's not what I was saying. What I was saying that the beliefs you had in the past no longer serve you as true in today.
I just learned the difference between the lies and the facts. So truth comes by what I would understand to comprehend, or to comprehend to understand.
Yeah, I try not to stand under anything I don't comprehend.
Yeah, seriously. Me neither.
But I do think that one of the things that we do unconsciously is we give people the impression we agree with them as part of the process of listening to them, so that by the time we've heard them out, they don't give us time to respond, and they already think we agree because we didn't stop them and tell them they were wrong. But that, I don't know about you, a lot of people put words in my mouth because they misinterpret what I was saying because they weren't listening to the words. They heard something and now they needed to build a response to what they heard, and their mind isn't listening anymore.
I don't know. I just like getting clarification if I didn't get what I thought I heard. Because I agree, people don't always listen. Or actually hear. They could be listening, but it's like, all right, I'll give you an example. The house around here has some really nice wall fountains. Of course, they're made out of plastic, whatever, but they have a pump on them and the water, does a waterfall. Well, because the machine was plugged in during the winter and the freeze and the defrost and the freeze and the defrost, and it just got wiped out. So the landlord goes and gets another pump. Well, it's a stronger pump, but it has a wire that's loosening to get where now there is such a vibration. You don't hear just the water falling. You hear this, and it aggravates me. It actually can harm me. I don't like it. And you can hear it vibrating through the wall into the kitchen sink. And I'm like, because when he touched it, when I was sitting out there, it went away because he pushed it up and the hum went away. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah. It's either not balanced or not grounded properly, or both.
Yeah. And so I'm supposed to just keep allowing this. Because it's not mine to be contained or concerned about. But excuse me, this is water and electric.
Yeah.
But I have no voice, even though I say it. And he says to me, oh, I just ignore that noise. And I'm like going, oh, selective hearing. There you go. Okay, that's it. People have selective hearing.
It's hard to get people to change a belief that they've held for a long time. And we all go through childhood believing what we're taught and then not believing anything we're taught, and then coming to the conclusion that we have to be realistic and believe the things we believe to be real and not believe the things we don't expect to be real. So for people to spend all their time arguing over beliefs that some people think are real and other people don't think are real is sort of silly, because truth can be different for individuals relative to each other, and absolute in the sense that there's one way that things came down. But I think that what time is it happens in lock. The same things happen at the same time, but that in different locations, the way that time is perceived can act differently, so that there's a mechanism that every time we make a choice, we end up with both decisions and we create new worlds that are subworlds to this one at very, very micro scale dimension. And things play out at that world. And if nothing is different from the way they play out between the worlds, we get back to our larger scale world. But occasionally things take off from that small scale world differently because of that decision. And that plays out at a frequency that we are blocked from in our current consciousness, because we didn't take that tangent out. But it's actually there compartmentalized, because every rendition of ourself is part of the same being. So we go through experiences outside of time that we're not aware of, and then it coalesces back into us, and we have new knowledge that we don't know where we got it from, but we know that it's true. And sometimes that new true knowledge it conflicts with the knowledge that we had going into getting that new knowledge. And so now we believe in things that we know just aren't true. And when that happens, we're either lazy enough to not correct it, and then we have to suffer through whatever we don't believe because we don't have a good grounding in truth, or we have to let it go and sort of figure out now how it really works. And I'm always in that second boat. I'll always let go of something and figure out how it can be worked if what it is isn't working and it still seems to work.
Chance of circumstance. Well, you said that very poetically. It was really good.
Do you believe in serendipity and coincidence?
Yeah, and serendipity. Is that what you said?
Serendipity.
Okay. And deja vu. Deja vu.
Deja vu happens to me again and again and again, and I can't figure it out.
Well, it's not anything to figure out. See, that's where we hang ourselves up. We think we have to figure it out. When you just were told something, let it go. It'll build on its own right. There's not always the need to have to get down to the nitty-gritty and investigate things like that. For all this stuff that I went through, if I had to do that, because the universe kept providing me the answers, and I didn't have to go searching. So I was one of the lucky ones, I guess.
I had a real entertaining deja vu the other day.
Okay.
Where I was listening to TuneIn Radio, and all of a sudden the speakers were saying the same words that they had said 5 minutes ago.
Oh, no. You got to hear this. This is so funny. Because when we left for the break, you said the word exactly as the word came up on the studio. So that was a serendipity. That was cool. I forgot to tell you that when it came back. But now you reminded me because it was cool. So you both said the same word at the same time.
I live in a magic world, and because I believe in magic, magic allows itself to happen for me.
Right.
And some people who don't believe in magic don't have the same rules of the ground game. And so if I'm with them, they will say, oh, that can't happen, and negate what I'm able to do because they can't believe in it. And if I believe in their negation, then I never try it again and lose the ability to do things that I could already do.
What the heck do you have to prove, Lenny? What do you have to prove?
You don't have to prove anything, but
that's right.
The geese want me to prove to them that I can respond when they call, and I want to prove to them that I'm not at their beck and call. But you know, one of the ladies is now sitting on the nest. So when I went down to feed today, there were 4 of them that came down with me. And so I went back up and I put the feed bucket back in the locker, closed it up, walked out, and Milady came up off her nest and was going down to eat. And so I had a good little hello with Mama Duck, this year's Mama Duck.
Duck or goose?
Goose.
You said duck.
I know. I don't have ducks anymore. There's 5 geese. You've seen the picture, but
yeah, they're cute.
Ducks.
Okay, so the fowl.
Anyway, she went down and ate, but she's now setting, and you can see she's been plucking to make feathers there. So I'll go in and count eggs in the nest at some point, but I haven't been taking them for about 2 weeks. And Peter took off and won't be back for another 3. So if we get lucky, we have baby geese to greet Peter when he gets home.
Aw, Easter. I had an iguana one Easter, lay 18 eggs.
Oh, I bet that surprised the hell out of you when you thought he was a boy.
I thought my children were playing a practical joke on me, and they weren't around on the house, so they could not have done it. Lizzie was a cool lizard. I hope she still survived. She got saved from a science experiment. She had pen markings like they were going to dissect her, so I was very happy to help save that iguana.
My favorite pet was a 14-foot Burmese albino python.
Aww. I had a ball python.
This one was yellow, 14 feet long. We built a cage that was like the TARDIS from Doctor Who. And we took a branch of an apple tree that had fallen off and cut it to the right size so that it would stand up inside of the TARDIS, and the bottom area, about to a little over knee high, was black and had a heat lamp and such, and then above it we had it screened. So when the snake wanted to, it could be in private at the bottom, or it could climb the tree and participate with folks. And so for years, when people came over, the snake was part of the party. And I had the room really wired well with audio.
Uh-huh.
Good speakers, good system, 6,000 LPs, or 600 to 800 LPs.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that from 1992 until 2007, the life that we led was self-contained at the farm, and I went out to work or came home and didn't have any other outside lives. But when I went out to work, I had a lot of adventures at different places to work. And because I was involved in politics, and my wife initially was also, we got involved with the Ross Perot stuff, which led me to getting involved with the Reform Party on the national scale, which led me to participating in the election of Governor Jesse Ventura in Minnesota, and watching the whole political game go, and then seeing how useless it was on big scale, and backing it off and just losing faith in the whole system. Because even though people are there trying to get involved for the right reasons, once you reach a certain power, you have to compromise your ethics to play the game any further. And they have people compromised morally, where it's got videotapes and other things on them, that once they've got something on you, you're stuck. But, they've got something on everyone because the surveillance state has been to the point where for so long the information has been one-sided, flowing in a single direction, that they can make up what they want to believe, and it becomes true because we weren't there to contest it when they wrote it down.
Right. But I break all contracts that would be used against me.
I break all contracts that I haven't made with giving my word to people.
Right.
But to give my word to people and a contractual responsibility, as long as they keep their word to me, I see no reason to break my word to them. But once they break the contract, then I don't know what the binding is on how much I'm bound to stay or not. And it just depends on how well the relationship works as to what the new terms of the next contract are. But contract law, if it's going to be binding, means everything needs to be written down and signed, and that's not the way the world works. Although, if you go on the internet, you have to check that box that says that you agree to not misuse their product.
Right.
How many people have read all the clauses within those agreements that we have agreed to?
I have no clue. I did my best with one. And I'm like going, this is so many devil speak. It's like, oh gosh. But I get that. I know that in life there's truly no way that secrets can be kept. So why even do something so stupid that you have to keep a secret?
To tell you the truth, once the big reveal comes, and when that people figure out that there are no secrets, for a long time, I watched when people predicted different days, and I checked to see that nothing happened on those days. And it's always the same. The only day that anything happened was December 21st, 2012. And what happened on that day wasn't apparent on that day because it happened on such a scale that it won't resolve here for another 30 years. Well, no. The range on the scale of 26,000 years is that 30 years is roughly 0.001% of the time period, or 0.01%. Let's see. 26,000 to 2,600 is one order. 2,600 to 260 is two orders. 260 to 26 is three orders. So that's 0.001. Yeah. So there's a lot of wiggle in that number. And so from 1986, 87, when the cosmic convergence started, until 2030, that's the window of time when that date of 2012 is centered in. And
Whoa.
Okay.
Well, it's something I never considered to know about, so that's rather interesting, and I really'd like to wonder that we'd even be a viable planet in that length of time.
Well, here's the thing. We exist on 3 fractal scales between here and there. And so if you think about what a fractal scale is, that's a little over 1,000 apart. And you figure that, so one fractal scale takes us to a grain of salt. Another one takes a grain of salt down to a microbe. Another one takes a microbe down to a macromolecule. And the next one takes the macromolecule down to water. Well, that's 4 orders of magnitude between 3 orders of magnitude between point A and point B, which is humanity and the water molecule.
Mm-hmm.
So it just means that if we were the size of a water molecule, 26,000 years would take 26 years of time.
Wow.
So you figure, according to astrology, there's 12 of those periods, right?
Yeah.
So that 12 into the 26,000 is what? 2,164 or 67? Anyway, you could take the sum of the whole as being 13, but 12 and 13 are plus or minus 1 within each other. So 13 is a Fibonacci number. 12 is a square number, right? No, 144 is a square number. It's 12 squared.
Yeah, well, 4 is square, 3 is triangle, 2 is a dot line, and 1 is a point. I see them different.
Yeah. When you look at the scales of different things and the dimensions that can be, there's length, there's width, there's height. Maybe there's another dimension that we're not seeing because it's
weight.
Wrote out.
Weight? Doesn't weight have something to do with it?
I don't want to wait. I want to do it now. No, weight does have something to do with it, but weight is a measure sort of intensity or mass. And Einstein's basic theory, E equals mc squared, might be a workable theory for the world we lived in. But C, the speed of light, is not a constant, but it's frequency dependent. So if humans can resonate at different frequencies, whatever frequency we happen to be resonating at has a different speed of light. But relative to our frequency, the speed of light is constant.
Human resonance?
Well, it's one of those things that I think humans are alive, awake, and aware on many different worlds at many different frequencies and scales, and that the sum of the parts is greater than the sum of the whole, so that we appear to be a whole human on this human scale. But in reality, there's a whole lot of us running around on different scales, putting information into what this scale's able to do, if this scale was a big scale. Now, if this scale is a little scale, we're feeding into a big scale, but as above, so below, as within, so without, and you know how that all works.
Yep.
When you get to the Hermetic principles and how science sort of has reinvented all of them to say something different than what the Hermetic principles actually say, I think that we need to have a panel of us, people who have brains, to sit down, get together in a different topical field with maybe half a dozen people, and have each one tell a little story, and then we'll get into the differences of the language so that we can parse the stories together and get more perspective, because I think we have all the information we need to figure it out, but I think it's been compartmentalized into the different professions. And in looking from a step back and seeing things, an engineer and a plumber do exactly the same things on totally different scales. The plumber plugs the shit with their hands and their plungers. The mechanical or electrical or chemical engineer unplugs the problem with their mind and makes a simple flow path. But they're both doing the same sort of work, and they've got totally different skill sets, names for things, tools, and others. But if things were streamlined so that parallel occupations in different fractals took the same form, things would make a whole lot more sense in the world, and we'd be able to sort out things that we don't get because everybody's in their own deep rabbit hole.
Huh. Well, that just means one part of the magnetism has more control than the others, because the others don't even know that they have magnetism, and that's part of the, I want to say, phonics of how life works. That we literally do call stuff to ourselves by who and what we are as individuals. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think magnetic is the lowest base grounded form of force, and that beyond magnetic you get to electric. And electric and magnetic, the way they explain them as perpendicular 90 degrees off each other, so that if you have an electric wire, it throws a magnetic field off. Okay. I'm not sure that explanation actually bears weight. I think it's one of those things that we're taught and we believe because a couple of simple experiments in some high school laboratory were set up to demonstrate that sort of thing. But in reality, the physics that they taught us that underpins the chemistry and biology that we learned supposedly in high school and then again in college is fundamentally flawed, because the way it all works together is not able to be broken down into the sum of just the material component parts.
Well, that's the most important start.
Yeah, and
sure,
it's a matter of taking the mass and the form and getting things together and deciding the form you want to display with your mass before you try and make anything flow. And I'm at the point where right now things seem to be flowing nicely.
Sweet.
And the flow gets you into power. But if you're not ready to use the power productively, you want to turn off the flow for a little while and go back to working on mass and form and improve things like efficiency, so that when it comes time to turn on the power from the flow form, you you're ready to see what the power does and apply love to it so that you can make whatever project that you're working with smoothly flow. If it smoothly flows and your mass and your flow work to provide the power, you provide love on top of the topic, and then you start talking about it, you get the sounds right, you put the story together, you put your brains together with other people, you figure out what's going on. And then when you have a complete picture of what it was that you started with when you got the mass and form together to start the flow, if that's where you got to, then you shut everything down, you take some time off, and then you come back and you start with a new project to mass and flow and form into.
Right.
And so that rest time is the void. And when you're at the void point, you sort of let things go and don't put effort into them because you need to reschedule yourself into the next domain so that you can start collecting new masses and work on a different scale. Now, the triage system that I use as a calendar has that going every 64 days. So you can go back to your birthday and calculate how many days you've been alive. And that's not the easiest thing to do because you have to know which years were leap years and things like that. But there's a website called timeanddate.com, or it's either that or dateandtime.com. I think it's Time and Date. But anyway, you can put it into a search engine, get there, and they've got a calculator between any two dates. So you put in today's date and you put in your birth date, and it tells you exactly how many days you've been alive. 10,000 or 20,000 or 17. It all depends on years, and you know all the multiples in that. But once you figure out how many days you've been alive, you divide that by 64 and you get a remainder number. And I can take that remainder number and put it on the scale of mass to void that I just explained so that you can figure out which day you're on. And my day today just happens to be my voiding day.
Oh.
And so it's the day where I'm at the end of the 64-day period. I have accomplished the tasks that I set off to do. I have completely cleared the sheet for the next 64-day period. And I will start tomorrow with my next massing and go through it from massing to mass forming to mass flowing and all the way in order down to voiding. And that'll take me out another 64 days. And so I get 5 or 6 of those periods every year. And by alternating my focus between the micro scale and the macro scale in different periods, I get to always explore some new stuff on the micro scale and then bring it back to the macro scale, see how it all relates in the big picture, and then work on the big picture until it's time to dive into something deep and new. I think it's one of the best things I ever did to get off the calendar and to get my own calendar and to have a beat that I could follow that made intuitive sense to me so that if any day that I want to check, if it's my powering day, that means that I'm at the stage of my 64-day month where I should be accomplishing the goal that I set out to do at massing. Well, that should be when it's really working well and everything's going right. And then once it's at that point, you start applying the love to what you're doing. And that's when the magic starts to happen. And if you believe in magic and allow it to happen, you just record where you're at and you make sure you can get there again. And then that's good enough. You can wind all the way down till the point when you can get back to the point where you were as a starting point and go even deeper down your rabbit hole.
Yeah, and each one of us has. Well, I don't have a shovel. I've thought about buying one though. Or we're still digging with our feet and hands. Oh gosh.
Well, the thing about rabbit holes that's kind of neat is once you get there down there deep enough, you find all you got to do is knock out a few walls, and you run into other people just as deep in their own rabbit holes, and now you got a rabbit club sitting down underground.
No. Well, to a degree, yeah. I think my only real club is the shungite. I mean, everything else just doesn't make sense to me. You know, to a degree, because it's just somebody's theory of opinion for what it is. Now, I don't mind having a discussion about it sometimes, but that's like what we're doing now. But I just want to see something beneficial through the communications, and we usually do. So, I mean...
So, I have a question.
Okay, try me.
Does shungite have C60 in it?
It is compromised with, yes.
Okay. So all this C60 stuff that they're telling me in these products is using shungite as part of the product?
Yeah, everything does and is incorporated with shungite in its products, yes.
Okay. I'm going to have somebody who is marketing a form of C60 on my show. And I need to make sure that I can ask him proper, intelligent questions from the perspective of how he explains stuff.
And well, this is earth made. This is not C60 synthetic, scientifically made, because they make it doesn't make it real.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that maybe they don't make it. Maybe all they do.
No, they make their products. Yes, they make their products out of the rock of shungite coming from Karelia, Russia. I've received a box of shungite from Karelia, Russia. I know it is coming from the mines there.
Absolutely. Personally. Now, do you know what sort of analysis they did on that rock that demonstrated that there was carbon-60 in it?
Not to my recognition. I think Nancy got a lot of the information from the Russians.
Okay,
because see, she was a Russian technology. She was in the military, and she was one of the first people with telecommunication systems going in, like Wi-Fi and things like that. So she knew all about this problem. And she was in where she had to find the microwave units that were bombarding the UN in Russia because people were getting sick. And this was way back when. So, yeah, she wouldn't follow something that she didn't know was factual.
No, I understand that. And I'm not questioning whether it's factual or not factual. What I'm getting into is trying to decide on the piece of chemical equipment that I would need to be able to analyze people's C60 and know that there actually was C60 in it.
I don't know of any kind of laboratory testing done, if you're asking that.
No, somebody did the laboratory testing. I guarantee it. I'm trying to figure out what instrument they used, and I'm guessing it's something called a mass spectrometer.
Huh.
And if it is a mass spectrometer, I can build a mass spectrometer.
Oh, why not?
Very efficient. You can buy them. But what I noticed was that a lot of American colleges are starting to go under. And because
American what?
Go bankrupt, underwater, close,
disappear,
kick out all the students because they're not actually worth the value that the students have to pay, and they can't compete in the open market anymore.
Oh, that's really sad. You're the first. Oh, really? Oh, that's sad.
Look.
I don't pay attention
to that. Is between this school year and next school year, which every spring is when they have graduations, and then the fall is when they start up again. Let's just keep an eye on how many colleges close their school in the time between now and when there's still school running. It's only April, and it runs until late May or early June. And then when it opens up again in September, October, because every one of those colleges have buildings full of lab equipment in chemistry and physics and biology and astronomy and all sorts of things. And if the colleges are closing down because they're broke and can't afford their existence, I think that it will be high time to start acquiring some of that chemical equipment at pennies on the dollar and setting up to people to learn how to measure. And if we know shungite has 360 and we can show people how to verify that shungite has C60 in it and then look at things, what we're doing is training them with a method of how to think through a tool and use it so that they can start using tools in other places to look at the facts we've been presented and measure if the facts can be verified or if they're made up. But we have a real problem in that the college and university system that we've worked with, when you and I were part of it and growing up, they were actually teaching real information at real value, or so we thought, and we bought into it at that time. In 93, when Clinton took over office and made it so that the college professors could make deals with industry that cut the college out of getting to be in between the deal, then the industry started telling the professors that they couldn't talk about their research area, and what they were presenting to the college students got diluted. And with graduate students, they could get students working in those research areas, but at some point you're presented with a contract that says, we're not going to give you any more information unless you sign this and agree not to divulge the information. And so virtually every person who does science in every different field is under these non-disclosure agreements, and what passes for science taught at university level leaves out all the real good stuff because it's profitable to some corporation somewhere.
Well, because they're taught to lie. They're taught to just go with the flow. I've seen it happen in the municipalities of the sciences for environmental conditions. Oh, yeah, children, after they spend all that time getting their education and they go to work and they come to find out they have to pay close attention and not going over but the rules instead of the truth of the numbers.
Yeah, there was a book written sometime around 2000 by a guy named Bjorn Lomborg, Bjorn Lomborg. It was called The Skeptical Environmentalist. And Lomborg was a researcher for Greenpeace, and he decided that he would prove this conspiracy theory about environmentalism was wrong and that we actually needed to do stuff to protect the environment. And he went through and started describing what he found, and it turned out to be this book, The Skeptical Environmentalist. And when you read that book, it opens your eyes to how much of the stuff that everybody knows about climate change that came from Al Gore, and they saw it in the movie, just was made up for somebody like Al Gore to take and run and give them a story. And so we really need to society-wide step back, look at how we collect evidence, and then start collecting evidence and verify 100% of the information that we think we have, and then have people who have verified the information that we have or not come together representing their field of approach and talk through how things work so that we can start looking at how different fractals in the system all follow the same apparent order, because that's the way nature works.
So be centered and balanced now, because everything is within its ripple effect, just like water, the drop in the pond. I thank you for joining me, and that we could help Bridgette out. We're about, I don't know, maybe a minute or so from the break or the end of the show. So do you want to say where else you are at?
Sure. You can find me on Steampunk Radio at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. No, at 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern Time, 7 a.m. Pacific Time. Steampunk Radio is an internet radio site, so you can find that on your TuneIn app. You can also go to @Lenny Thyme at Steemit, or I'm now putting out stuff on Out of Minds, OOM2.com.
Cool. So, well, thanks again. And don't forget, people, that we're listener supported, so please donate. And make sure that we can keep shows like these. And we were usually and normally 24/7. So, and we appreciate your help. Alrighty. You were good. Thank you, Lenny. Later.
Later.
Later. Bye.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. Welcome to Revolution Radio, where you, the listeners, are in charge. Here at Revolution Radio, we present 48 broadcast hours of news and information each and every day. Revolution Radio never sleeps. Revolution Radio is worldwide and borderless information. Revolution Radio is also commercial-free. Revolution Radio is supported 100% by you, the listeners. And that's why we appeal to you to donate and support this station and its expenses. You can support us in many available options, like archive subscriptions, our seed pack selections, or even my woodworking store. And we also even have Revolution Radio's swag at the Revolution Radio Zazzle store, which you can get t-shirts, coffee cups, even a baby onesie. Or you can just plain donate to the cause. We cannot continue without your support, and your support is what helps pay the bills. So please, if you wish us to continue, please stop by our station support page and drop a dime on us. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps. Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank or all the